Quick question before I get going. How many of you received a breach notification the past year? Home Depot, Anthem, Sony, someplace. A lot of you. How many of you received more than one? Do you know what's all in common across all of those things? Malware was able to execute. It was able to penetrate the corporate networks because the solutions they had deployed did not effectively prevent the risk. So they were left in damage minimization focus and detection and response. Cylance has done what nobody else has done before. We believe we figured out, and I think the data will show that we figured out, the cure for malware. We've used data science and machine learning to unlock essentially the DNA of advanced threats. We've done this because we've collected hundreds of millions of files. We've been able to extract the features of those files and understand across binaries, executables, and files, what features are good and what features are bad. We've then been able to train and vectorize and use math to help classify and cluster those features in milliseconds prior to execution of malware to determine good from bad. Again, what we've done is mathematically determine if it's good, and if it is, we allow it. If it's not, we quarantine it, we block it, we stop the execution. We stop the penetration of the endpoints and the networks that's causing the breaches that we're all experiencing day in and day out. We're stopping the cyber risk cycle that is stealing intellectual property from companies, allowing organized crime to grow and profit from companies and consumers, and we're stopping hacktivists from creating harm in corporate environments. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, the thing that's common across all those attacks is malware was able to execute. It was able to execute on the endpoints. That is the common thread that's driving the cyber risk cycle we're seeing today. It all begins and ends with the device a user has and the ability to execute that malware. And from that, the pivot point occurs that allows for lateral movement, and with just a handful of systems in any network, an HVAC vendor that gets breached, that then gets into target. Any of that execution, a handful of systems, is what's generally causing all the breaches that we've been seeing. So you need to focus on the prevention, you need to focus at the point of the ingress and egress of the malware, which is the endpoint. What we've done with our product, it's enterprise ready. We're Microsoft AV certified, so we're a complete AV replacement for those organizations that need to show AV compliance. We're PCI certified. We've also done a number of ecosystem integrations. I won't go through the list of them here. The largest one we announced yesterday with Dell. Dell spent over a year looking at over 60 different endpoint security solutions and chose to partner with Cylance to integrate our agent into their advanced platforms to be the best protected Tier 1 OEM PCs and laptops out there, because they validated what we already knew, that we prevent malware with a high effectiveness. We're in 18 different verticals because our solution is effective, it's simple, it reduces cost, and has a better user experience. We had one customer of ours, a peer of mine in a large industry, buy our solution in August. In 2.5 weeks in September, across 120,000 endpoints worldwide, he deployed our product with 0 help desk calls. The results are in from the performance testing we've done in live fire drills with live malware. We're continuing to do these across cities in the US, but you can see from thousands and thousands of malware samples, we're effectively stopping greater than 99% of all the malware that we encounter. Traditional solutions are far worse. And so what we've been able to prove is that prevention through math yields lower risks, lower costs because you can drop your security operations costs because you're not detecting and responding and playing whack-a-mole, and a better user experience because we take up a fraction of the performance on the endpoint. So instead of having 10 to 15% of your endpoint being sucked away from the security solution, we're at a fraction of that, generally well less than 1% CPU and memory. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question, anybody? Yes, sir.
We raised our third round, C round, in August, $42 million in total. It's 77 million in funding. So we just completed that and announced that beginning of August.